Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang Dhammang Sanghang Namassami. So, welcome everyone to Saturday night at Chithurst Buddhist Monastery. And yes, after the meditation, somebody offers some reflections on the teachings or the experience of the Buddha's teachings. So I was recently in London, and what was obvious from people collecting on train stations, poppies, on pictures of poppies on the lampposts, and people walking around with poppies. So yeah, it's a Remembrance Day. And the theme of that is remembering those who, the self-sacrifice of those involved in the Second World War, and having ceremonies about that. So this theme was in the mind, and I came back to Chithurst, and I thought, well, people are practicing self-sacrifice here. Because at the moment we have this forest month, and a group of men and women have come here to stay during this time. They work morning and afternoon, and they're cold and damp. We don't give them an evening meal, no entertainments, and they do this for up to 3 weeks. So I thought, that's quite a gesture of self-sacrifice. There's a word, a Pali word, which to me is about self-sacrifice, and this Pali word is Caga. Interesting enough, one of the monks leading this forest month is called Caga Dhammo, and that includes this word Caga. That's better, yeah. And it's often translated as generosity, but it has sort of a broader meaning. Like dana is like generosity in the Pali language, but Caga is more embracing all aspects of of self-sacrifice, generosity, helping others. It has sort of more like a broader meaning. It says like the concept of a bodhisattva in Buddhism is somebody who gives up their life to helping other beings to realize enlightenment. So this is in this word Caga. And in the Buddha's teachings, there's a lot of emphasis on cultivating what is called inner wealth. So in the world, maybe people try to accumulate a lot of external wealth, but Buddha emphasized the importance of cultivating inner wealth. And if somebody has cultivated the spirit of Caga, then the Buddha said that person has inner wealth. And there's actually 5 things the Buddha taught that if we have them, we're wealth in heart. And these things are, faith in enlightenment. If we have that confidence in our potential for enlightenment. If we have virtue, leading our life according to virtuous guidelines. If we've, spent time to study wise teachings, and if we've gained some wisdom from cultivating those from those wise teachings, then the Buddha said we've got some wealth. So just to reflect is the benefit from self-sacrifice. For the first, 23 years of this life, I wasn't from a religious family. My father was a bit anti-religion, really. And so, life was about eat, drink and be merry, really. And that's what I did. And especially, at university, because there was so much, it seems to be sinking now and again. Thank you. So university, lots of opportunities for having fun, lots of friends, parties, drinking. But by the time I got to the age of 23, I was depressed. And I thought, why? Why am I depressed? I'm having fun, doing this, going out with friends. So it did make me start to question things. And starting to look into more spiritual teachings. But I couldn't subscribe to a belief system. Brought up as an atheist, an engineer, scientist, subscribing to a belief system I couldn't do. But then, a friend at work said, in Buddhism you don't have to believe in God. So I thought, interesting that. So eventually I managed to find a book on Buddhism. And I just liked what I read, and it seemed to explain so much about my predicament. So I started to change my way of life in terms of, trying to keep precepts and being more generous, practicing some meditation. And it wasn't easy, going against the grain of, what my desire, my cravings wanted to do. And trying to be a bit more restrained and disciplined. I remember once going to a school, and there was this poster in the school. There was this very sad-looking dog on this poster. and the words on the poster were, "It's hard to be good." Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And then there's this saying in the Dhammapada: "It's easy to do those things that are not so beneficial, but more difficult to do are those things that are really beneficial." So I started to follow these teachings, this Eightfold Path, and things started to getting a bit better. Practicing in, the Buddha's teachings in lay life for about 4 years. Then eventually coming to be in the Sangha, Chithurst Monastery here. But it wasn't until, after 4 years of practicing in lay life and 5 years in the Sangha where the mind didn't sink a bit into those depressed states. So it did take time and practice to lift the mind from that depressed state. And, to me this was just the karma of, when you just follow cravings for so many years and, your sort of mind gets weak, and then all these sort of mind states start to overwhelm it. You lose this sort of inner strength of heart. So it takes time to build up your inner strength again, so that your mindfulness and wisdom is strong enough to not let these moods and things overwhelm us. And I think an important thing that contributes to that is, going against the grain of our personal cravings and practicing self-sacrifice. Not just, the mindset, not just thinking what I want for me, but to think about others. One thing I notice when I'm travelling, I go on the underground, and it's quite full at certain times of day, and a lot of people standing. And so I was standing in, just by the doors. This gentleman walks in, elderly gentleman with a walking stick. And there's these priority seats on the tube, isn't there, for people with walking sticks? But nobody stood for him. Nobody stood up. People are looking at their devices and it's sad, really. Yeah, people don't consider, think of others, and a bit of self-sacrifice to give up your seat for an elderly person, When I was at school, and you're on the bus, and if an elderly person on the bus, you'd automatically stand up and let them sit down. I don't know how that got sort of, we were taught that, but that's what we did. And of course, even if not an elderly person on the bus, but somebody, especially a lady, you'd stand up and let the lady sit down. That's what you did. So I just, my own personal experience is following the path of just thinking of oneself and one's own pleasures. It's the path to not really quality of happiness. Maybe temporary happiness when you're looking at something, hearing something, but not a really sense of well-being coming from the heart. So, coming to monastic life, a lot of having to give up a lot of what I want to do. Routines, different work. Sometimes, you don't want to come to 5 o'clock meditation in the morning. Sometimes you just like to have a day on your own when you have to do some work. You don't choose the people you live with. Eating, just one main meal a day. No entertainments. But something, I really understood from before I was in the monastic life, that going against the grain gives strength to the heart. So, this, cultivating, the sense of not just thinking about what I want to do, but what's best for the group. There was one incident in the Buddha's time where 2 groups of monks got into a dispute. It was quite petty in a way. It was about something to do with water in the toilet. And the monks were really, these 2 groups of monks were really going at each other in very not nice ways, saying not nice things about each other. And the Buddha said, encourage them to stop doing that. But they wouldn't. They said, "Oh, no, don't worry about it, Lord Buddha. Just be at ease in yourself. Just leave us to it." And so the Buddha left the monastery, and then he travelled and he came to this park. And in this park, there were these 4 monks practicing together in this park. And he asked these monks how they were practicing, how they lived together. And they gave their sort of routine that, in the morning they would go Brindabhata, and whoever came first to the eating place would set things up. And then they go out and come back with their food, maybe at different times, maybe leave some of their leftovers for the others. But then the last one would just naturally put things away. I don't think they had a rota, they just did it. And one of the monks all commented that living in the spirit of giving up what I am minded to do to what my friends in the holy life are minded to do. So this spirit of just some level of self-sacrifice. And that's what life in a monastery. A lot of opportunities for this. But I say there's a great benefit from it. Disempowering the sense of I am, me and mine, what I want for me. But of course, in balance too, because, we have to share the duties and things. So if one person is, being too over the top with self-sacrifice, I'll do it all. And this is not a good balance, is it? You have to have time for, one's own personal meditation too. Personal time. So in monastic, hopefully, we find a good balance of time when we give ourselves to do things for the community, and then we have time on our own. And, I'm talking about monastic life, but I'm sure in your life there's times when maybe you have to do things that you don't particularly want to do. Be with people you don't particularly want to be with. I was talking to a lady today after the meal. She's a grandmother. You get married, you have children. That's a lot of self-sacrifice, isn't it? Bringing up children. And then come the grandchildren. And then you got to look after them because the parents live in London, they both have to work to pay the bills. So now she's having to look after the grandchildren. And she thought at first she'd be a bit, looking after energetic young children. But actually she says, it's been quite beneficial. That it's kept her, active. It's kept her mind thinking about ways of, steering the young children to wholesome things, games and things. And she said there was a benefit from it. So, giving up her own time to support the grandchildren. And in relationship, if it's too one-sided, one just gives in to what the other one wants to do, then maybe that's not such a good balance, is it? So in relationship, a healthy relationship is, sometimes do what one person wants to do, but sometimes do what the other person wants to do. That seems a more healthy balance. And that to me would more nourish a sense of mutual respect, rather than it being one-sided. Part of that might be giving up. Sometimes we have to give up our opinions about things. Our opinion about the way we think I think something should be done, but the rest of the people don't think this is what should be done. So giving up sometimes one's opinions about things. For harmony. For the sake of harmony. This word, Caga, is also one meditation subject. It's Caga no Sati. Sati, mindfulness. And it's a theme of meditation of bearing in mind how we practice Caga in terms of generosity, in terms of helping others, doing wholesome things. And Sati, it's about bringing something to mind and keeping it in mind. So keeping the theme of Caga in our meditation. And it's one of the recommended meditations that can be conducive towards well-being and peaceful mind. And sometimes for some people meditation on like the breath is not easy. The mind doesn't stay with the breath. But maybe sometimes some of these contemplations, or the mind maybe stay more with the contemplation. But still, even that we have to, practice with it. But when we can hold a theme in mind for a more sustained period, it does have a good effect on the quality of mind. It calms the mind. But the normal mind will tend to, think about this, and that'll trigger off certain memories and emotions, and go here, think about this, and then, that just keeps the mind busy. But, to find a theme that we feel, it's a nice theme, it sits with us well, and work at that, can be a skillful way to calm the mind, some skillful contemplation. So this might be a useful contemplation, especially if we haven't done some skillful things in the past. Because sometimes a critical mind can dwell on some of the unskillful things we've done in the past. So to balance that tendency is really to bring to mind some of the things we're doing now, some of the wholesome things we're doing now. So, sometimes, when I'm, meditating, I get some memory, especially from my university days, some of the silly things I did, and, very good things I did. And the sense of, remorse comes up, but then I think, no, don't go there. Just, now you're doing something more skillful and wholesome. So I don't dwell on it. Don't dwell on these things. And then one moves on. Just continues to cultivate that which is skillful. A gentleman once said to me that he sort of beats himself up with the unskillful things and the guilt from the past, thinking that will prevent him from doing it again in the future. If you beat yourself up enough, you won't do it again. But for me, I wouldn't say that works. If one can create a wholesome state of mind, then naturally you don't do unskillful things. Rather than beating yourself up or dwelling in lots of guilt, remorse. How to uplift the mind, and then naturally you can be more skillful. So, a skillful use of one's thinking processes. I was just thinking that sometimes in the monastery routine, you have a busy day, don't get my nap after the meal, and it comes to evening meditation. If I go to the breath, I'll just go to sleep. So that's when I do this Caga, remembering the day and the things I've done. And it keeps me alert, and it actually uplifts the mind. So I'm just thinking about those forest workers, working hard in the forest all day. Maybe Anapanasati is going to be a bit sleepy, but yeah, just to reflect on the wholesome things from the day. What one's contributed towards making the forest, the monastery forest, a nice environment, not only for meditation but also for the wildlife, restoring a balance to the vegetation in the forest, creating heathland for the ground nesting birds, open areas for the different animals, and a place where people can go and be more at peace and meditate. So this word, this concept of self-sacrifice, Caga, is something that I thought I'd reflect on tonight after being in London, this theme, and coming back here. Fortunately, we haven't had to self-sacrifice going to a war, because I think that's something you don't want to remember, isn't it? Yeah, something one wants to put behind one. But fortunately, we don't have to go to war here in England at this moment, and we have the opportunities to cultivate skillful things. So I'd like to offer these reflections this evening.
So we can finish the evening by chanting the verses of sharing and aspiration on page 33 in the dark brown book in English language. Now let us chant the verses of sharing and aspiration. Through the goodness that arises from my practice, may my spiritual teachers and guides of great virtue, my mother, my father, and my relatives, the sun and the moon, and all virtuous leaders of the world, may the highest gods and evil forces, celestial beings, guardian spirits of the earth, and the Lord of death, may those who are friendly, indifferent, or hostile, may all beings receive the blessings of my life. May they soon attain the threefold bliss and realize the deathless. Through the goodness that arises from my practice, and through this act of sharing, may all cravings and attachments quickly cease, and all harmful states of mind, until I realize Nibbana. In every kind of birth, may I have an upright mind, with mindfulness and wisdom, austerity and vigor. May the forces of delusion not take hold, nor weaken my resolve. The Buddha is my excellent refuge. Unsurpassed is the protection of the Dhamma. The solitary Buddha is my noble guide. The Sangha is my supreme support. Through the supreme power of all these, may darkness and delusion be dispelled. And the closing homage in English, page 29. The Lord, the perfectly enlightened and blessed One, I render homage to the Buddha, the Blessed One. The teaching so completely explained by him, I bow to the Dhamma. The Blessed One's disciples who have practiced well, I bow to the Sangha.